Welcome back to the Hill Update. I'm Dean Allison, your host. Joining me on the show today is Damien Kurek from Battle River Crowfoot in the heartland of Alberta. Damien, like we've been talking now, we talk about carbon tax, we talk about maybe having our money spent efficiently. Last segment I want to talk about today is just sort of that whole issue of, do as I say, not as I do. Let's look at this video, then I'd like to get your comments.
The opposition.
We want to cut waste and mismanagement that has risen to a level that is not worth the cost after 8 years of this Prime Minister. Speaking of wasteful, this Prime Minister loves to lecture Canadians on how they use energy. He says that he's just like every other Canadian when he stays with a friend at an $89,000 a week vacation. The average Canadian emits 15 tons of carbon per year. His trip emitted 100 tons of carbon in 1 week. Did he pay the full carbon tax on each ton he emitted for his luxurious vacation?
All right, so Damien, we've got a couple issues here. The first one is the fact that he was able to stay at almost a $90,000 a week resort where most of us don't have an opportunity. The second issue is asking us to do more when it comes to carbon tax, and he's actually jetting around the country. So let's talk about the first one first. Once again, he knows people in powerful places, so it gives him an opportunity to do things that the average Canadian can't.
Yeah, it seems like this has become a annual tradition. Another Justin Trudeau vacation scandal, and what's frustrating is that time and time again, the Prime Minister seems to not only have not learned his lessons, but intentionally flaunts the rules, and even in this case, I think changed his story 3 times as to who paid for this luxurious $8,000 or $9,000 a night luxury vacation. So it I think just emphasizes and is a proof point of the Prime Minister's pattern of poor judgment and those who he surrounds himself. Was there no one in the Prime Minister's office that said, hey, maybe we should stop and think about this for a minute? Maybe we should recommend that the Prime Minister not go on this holiday? It's that pattern of poor judgment that I think is costing Canadians not only that erosion of trust in their institution, but the fact that he not only had to have 1 jet to go pick him up, but there was some issues, so they ended up having to send 2 jets. It's that cost that just adds up, and at a time when Canadians are struggling, having your Prime Minister take these free luxury vacations, it just shows how truly out of touch he is.
When you have a carbon tax that is going to quadruple over time, which really is punitive to try, convince people that they need to stay home and not go anywhere. And as you just mentioned, we got 2 jets. The average person, according to the questions, spends 15 tons in the course of the year. And we see on this particular vacation over 100 tons of carbon emissions. I mean, once again, what kind of signal and what kind of sign is that sending to regular Canadians? I mean, that sounds like hypocrisy to me.
Hypocrisy is the word that I would use to describe it. You have a Prime Minister that is telling Canadians to cut back, yet I certainly don't see him cutting back. And it's the same thing when Chrystia Freeland and Stephen Guilbeault and these other Liberal ministers fly around the world to tell others how they should and shouldn't live their lives, yet they certainly do not put themselves to those same standards, but are telling your and my constituents, Dean, that they need to cut back. It's unacceptable. It's a hypocrisy that is not only costing Canadians more, but I think is speaking to why a change is so desperately needed when the Liberals are unwilling to acknowledge that their policies are specifically designed to do exactly what's happening, rise costs on regular Canadians to try and force them to change the way that they live their lives. Yet the Prime Minister certainly wasn't willing to give up his luxury winter vacation.
So we got about a minute left. Tell me, so what are some of the things that you're going to be working on over the course of the spring as we are now back in the new year to hold the Liberals to account?
Yeah, thanks, Dean. I look forward to being able to continue the work on the Ethics Committee, where we are going to drill down on Liberal corruption and scandals, make sure that we are poking as many holes, asking those tough questions that I think Canadians are demanding. When it comes to agriculture, we need to make sure that we fight to see Bill C-234 passed. That exemption that would lower the cost of production of the food that Canadians need to lower the price that Canadians pay at the grocery store. And then to ensure that there's accountability for the massive amounts of spending, and to keep asking the question, to say, let's not just keep throwing money at problems, let's make sure that we actually fix what Justin Trudeau has broken. And then too, when it comes to things like energy. Alberta got to -50 in some places here a couple of weeks ago, and we saw an energy crisis in the most energy-rich jurisdiction in the world. We need to build things again in this country, and it's time it's time that the Liberals realize that, and Conservatives are there to make sure we can build again.
Damien, thanks for joining me on the show today.
Thanks, Dean. It's been a pleasure.